all about Symbian and Mobile Industry Review.
Well, it's fascinating what people have experimented with. Obviously, things like Minority Report show some of the possible future scenarios. I haven't seen anything that really captures the full upside of it. Many of the films seem to emphasize, well, actually we are more human if we have less technology, which I think is a flawed view. I think technology enhances us. It can make our lives much richer. Virtual reality can be every bit as real as so-called natural reality. In terms of books, I quite like Charlie Strauss's Accelerando, in which he looks forward decade by decade into the future, and he sees the possible enhancements to people's processing powers. They become smarter and smarter. The machines become smarter than humans, with some bad consequences and some good consequences. But there's a lot more to be said about this. You know, the real serious discussion is just getting underway, and I'd like it to happen now rather than we wake up one day in 15 years' time and it's too late. Accidentally, we have done something which is too difficult to reverse.
Like the day the system became aware, the Terminator style.
Yeah, so the risk is that we'll become more and more dependent on a system that we can't shut off. So could we shut off the internet now? It'd be very hard because so much of society would stop. No, the problem is you might program a system and most of the time it would do the right thing. It'd be like some smart new person you hired into your company who was super good, but then he might go off the rails and it's too late because he's got so much power. Or it might be like the market economy. The market economy normally does great things, but occasionally if it's not supervised, then we have bad outcomes, as we've seen in the crunch recently. So the risk is that the computers might gain more and more power. They'll get the right decisions most of the time, but without adequate human supervision, then we'll regret it bitterly. Now, how can you do this? How can humans supervise computers who are much, much smarter than them? I think the only way is that we humans must also become smarter. So we must augment our own processing. So rather than just look at AI, artificial intelligence, we have to look at IA, intelligent augmentation. So I've been called, a long time ago, somebody's called me the man with three brains, which is an old kind of joke that I'm too clever for my own good. But in fact, I have had three brains for many years. I've had my grey cells in here, which are gradually decaying. I've got my cyan, which is my extended memory, which isn't really connected, but it's got vast knowledge of the things I've done for the last 20 years. And then I've got my smartphone, which connects me to Google and Wikipedia and often means I can reach out. So over time, I won't need hands and eyes to access these things. Over time, it'll be done by brain control. So that'll keep us smarter than the machines and should mean that we'll have good outcome to increasing technology rather than something we regret.
Did you get onto the Docomo stand with the guy with his eyes moving to control the phone?
So I've heard about it. I think it's an indication of how we'll get more and more intimate with our technology, as we've done for our whole history. When clothes aren't that natural, spectacles aren't that natural, microscopes aren't that natural, we get used to it. So we're going to get used, and especially the new generation is going to grow up. New generations expect that you can have all cameras are connected, and they come across a camera that's not connected, they think, what's this? Likewise, the very youngest children are now discarding phones that don't have touch screens because they're so used to dragging things around on the screen. So the new generation is going to become very familiar and comfortable with the technology, and we slightly older people, well, we have to just reprogram ourselves through thinking and by getting with the flow.
What's your viewpoint on extending your life? I.e., I think if I was offered the ability, I would want to put myself into a computer.
Well, I think life is good. There's so much more I'd like to accomplish. I think it's a tragedy when the wisdom that's in people gets expired, and I can no longer talk to these people. So it is my vision that we'll be able to reprogram our DNA over time, just as we have programmed our silicon over the last 50 years or so. And so I expect that in the decades ahead, we'll see more and more synthetic biology, and we'll be creating computers on the size of white blood cells. And they'll be doing what white blood cells do, but much, much better. We will have a reprogrammed nanobots in our bodies, which mean that we'll have a human regenerative engineering. There are social consequences of that, of course, huge social consequences, but I think, again, done wisely, it'll be much better. Where will all these people live? Well, there's plenty of energy reaching the Earth from sun. We just have to be smart in how we capture it and distribute it. The big trends in the next 10 years are, one, nanotechnology, which means taking control of matter more reliably on smaller levels. And nanotechnology itself is multiple disciplines, but one of it is the synthetic biology, whereby we'll be able to create new organisms which have got many of the attributes of life. So that's one. Second, we are seeing more and more AI in the sense of computers that can anticipate aspects of what we're thinking about, and they can be more responsive. And we need better interfaces, of course, with the very complex technology that's present there. So these are two trends that are extremely important. We will understand the brain more and more too. The brain has some aspects in common with computers. The brain has got many other aspects that we're gradually understanding. And with that knowledge, we'll be able to do things not just by nanobots, but also by changes in diet, changes in drugs. Smart drugs will be able to enhance our intelligence as well. So that's where it's going. Now, we've just touched on a lot of topics there. That's why I've organised this conference in London on the 24th of April. We've got 9 speakers from around the world who have each thought in various ways about some of these trends, sometimes called singularity or transhumanism or techno-progressivism. So there's a mix of views, and I invite people to come along and get involved in the discussion.
Just a reminder where we can find out more information.
So on Facebook, you can go to UKH Plus group, or you can follow my blog, dw2blog.com, or simplest is my microblog at dw2 on Twitter.
Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome.
All about Symbian and Mobile Industry Review.